So here's my idea for a Lantern Corps theme park. I'm just going to hop right into it. We're not going to waste any time here because there's just way too much to talk about in what my idea is for this park. So you might be saying right off the bat, how are you going to make a Lantern Corps theme park that actually makes sense and is cohesive and doesn't just have like the name Green Lantern or Sinestro Corps plastered onto a ride that has nothing to do with that thing? Well, I'll get into it, but here's the backstory of the park that really kind of brings the whole thing together. So the backstory is that all of the Lantern Corps' home planets have crashed into Earth. And now the Lantern Corps and the humans of Earth have to learn to live together. We're going to say that the planets have crashed somewhere in the United States. Because God bless America, am I right? No, I'm just kidding. It's actually just because that's where I'm from and that's where I'm most familiar with. So for the purposes of this theme park, that is where it's going to be located. And the U.S. government has set up a facility outside the collision point, as all of these planets have crash landed in around the same spot, creating a collision point where they all surround. Some of the Lantern Corps are opting to befriend the humans and welcome them into their homes with open arms and accepting what has happened and trying to become friendly with their new neighbors, while others are choosing to be hostile towards the humans. Regardless, since all their planets crash into ours, they really can't keep us out of their homes. So now we have this theme park where all these humans get to visit these otherwise otherworldly planets. The entrance of the park will be Earth, and wherever location this park would be located, wherever the collision point is, it would be a government-controlled border patrol, basically, that would help monitor tourism into the Lanterns' homes. Of course, all the team members in this land will be wearing military uniforms to further immerse the guests into the world. The tickets to the park would be interplanetary passport booklets that would make guests really feel like they actually are traveling to new planets. On top of this, inside the booklet, aside from your ticket information, would also be information like the backstory of the park, as I mentioned, about the collision and whatnot, and also would be information about each world, each planet that you visit, and the people who reside there. Also, on each page that talks about the planet, there would also be a spot to get a stamp, and you can get a stamp for each of the 7 worlds that have collided into this Earth. So your ticket essentially becomes a souvenir, and you might be saying, well, isn't that kind of expensive to make the ticket, a passport? And yeah, it kind of is. A lot more expensive than most parks have to pay for tickets, but the thing is that the only way you're going to be able to get stamps is by going to a place that has a counter, basically. So that's going to be a store or a quick service restaurant. So it will incite guests to go to at least one restaurant or store in each land, even if they didn't plan on doing so in the first place. In this Earth military base section of the park, there would be a large store called the Interplanetary Artifacts, which would house items that the military was able to recover after the collision that came from the alien planets. Here, guests could get merchandise from any of the Lantern Corps, ranging from shirts, hats, rings, power batteries, all that good stuff. There also would be a quick service restaurant in the land across the road from the Interplanetary Artifacts, which would be the military kitchen, which would, of course, just have regular American food that guests could come and eat and enjoy before going to see the alien parts of the planet. I would imagine this probably won't have too many people eating there, because why would you want to eat at the most mundane place in the park? But because it's at the entrance, maybe some people who come later in the day might want to just get something really quick to eat before enjoying the rest of the park. The last location in the land would be a soldier-run tent that would be known as the recuperation tent. Here, soldiers would go and get a drink and to cope with the fact that aliens have now arrived on Earth, and also discuss what their thoughts are on this. There would be plenty of cast members around dressed up as military officers that would either be having a drink, what a great job that would be, or be working behind the counter as a bartender. And all these cast members would have written backstories and storylines, and they would basically be able to recount you the tale of the collision point from their perspective and how they kind of experience the whole thing go down. So that's pretty much it for Earth. So let's move on to our actual first Lantern Corps land of the park, and that's going to be the Green Lantern world, Oa. Oa is a mostly desert-like, lifeless planet that is only inhabited by the Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians of the Universe. When guests enter the land, they'll notice many skyscrapers, and towards the back of the land, they'll see the Green Lantern Central Power Battery peeking out from a sea of skyscrapers. There will be 2 restaurants in this land. One would be Guy Gardner's restaurant, New Warriors, which sells American fast food. Gardner, being a human from the USA, started the restaurant to give other Green Lanterns a taste of food from Earth, as well as give himself a taste of home when he is away from Earth. So unlike the military kitchen in the Earth land, this would be more focused on fast food as opposed to a buffet style or a catering style that the military kitchen has. In this restaurant would also be a meet and greet location for Guy Gardner himself. The second restaurant would be the Green Lantern's Dining Hall. This restaurant would sell food from across the universe, except for from Earth, as the executive chef, Greet, has trouble making foods from Earth. Greet would be present in this restaurant as an interactive animatronic that would ask guests questions about the food from Earth as to better understand it so he can be better at recreating it. Next to the dining hall would be the main attraction of the land. The entrance to the ride would be the Hall of Great Service, which is a library that is home to the Book of Oa, which is the Green Lantern's law book and Bible. Here guests would find signs indicating that there are open tryouts for humans to become Green Lanterns. This makes sense as many of the Green Lantern Corps' most successful members are humans. Once guests exit the Hall of Great Service, they are led into the Green Lantern's meeting hall, where Lanterns receive their briefings and assignments. At the front of the hall would be an animatronic of Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern himself, addressing the guests. He would basically inform guests that the Green Lantern Corps is looking for new members, and they figured while they are stuck here on Earth, they might as well take advantage and have some tryouts. Now, I know that you don't become a Green Lantern by doing a tryout and then joining the team. I understand that that's not how it works, but I think that this would be a good way of making a theme park ride and getting guests involved in the world, while also not being too far of a stretch for what could be possible in this Lantern universe. He would also explain that the tryouts would happen in the Hazard Simulation Facility, which is used for training all rookie Lanterns in a productive and safe manner. The ride itself would be a floorless coaster, not a standing coaster like in Six Flags Great Adventure, which is a stretch for making it work, and it's just an uncomfortable ride that really would have been made 10 times better had it just been sitting. That's all I'm going to say on that. We're going to move on. The ride would be very similar to a Space Mountain, where you're flying through space majority of the time, but there are going to be a few scenes where you're flying over Oa, Earth, and other Lantern Corps planets and encountering simulations of certain enemies. And through the use of screens, and I think maybe even this technology that Universal patented a long time ago, which basically allows your cart to be encapsulated within a box that follows your cart and is covered with screens, so the screens will follow you as opposed to you moving in front of screens, which I think is really cool technology. I think that would be very good for trying to simulate Green Lantern constructs coming from your cart. Of course, everything you experience in this ride is going to be a part of a trial put on by Hal Jordan and the rest of the Green Lantern Corps to see if you are truly worthy of being a member of the Corps. These trials would include saving people and defeating some bad guys, in which most of the time you would fail. A lot of the earlier ones you would do well in, but then towards the end you would start messing up, start failing, and that's when the ride would end and the simulation would be over, and Hal Jordan would appear and tell you that you have failed and that you're not quite cut out to be a Green Lantern just yet, but maybe come back again and give it another go at a later date. The ride would exit into an underground tunnel that would lead you to the Foundry, which is where Green Lantern rings and power batteries are forged. Here, novelty Green Lantern rings, power batteries, and other Green Lantern merchandise would be sold. There would also be animatronics behind the counter forging rings and power batteries in the background. Now, the reason why this store is located underground and somewhat far away from everything else in the land is because that's how it is on Oa in the comics, is that they have it underground and they have it far away from the city because they want to keep it hidden and secret, as that's a very important and crucial part to the Green Lantern Corps. The last thing to note about this land is that there would be some walk-around characters for the land. These include Hal Jordan, John Stewart, and Kilowog. Although these characters should just be found walking around the land, there would also be some designated meet and greet times in the Hall of Great Service, which would have a separate entrance from the ride that also enters in the same building. The next planet in the wheel would be the star Sapphire's planet, Zamaron. Zamaron's surface is made up of mostly dark rock and bright pink crystals. Similar to Oa, the only life on the planet is the star Sapphires. One of the attractions on Zamaron would be a restaurant located in one of the many crystal caverns on the planet. This restaurant would of course be called Cavern Eats. Here they would serve food that was either pink or resembled crystals in some way. There would also be a signature Zamaron drink sold here, which would probably be like a carbonated pink lemonade, something like that. Something crazy, but also at the same time not that crazy. Another attraction in the land would be a meet and greet location in the Queen of the Zamaron's throne room. Here guests can meet the most popular and well-known star Sapphire, Carol Ferris, and the Queen of Zamaron herself, Queen Agapo. Right next to the throne room would be the main attraction of the land, which would be the Zamaron Mine Train Coaster. This ride would be a pretty tame family coaster that would take guests on a scenic journey through the crystal caverns of Zamaron. I understand since this is a fictional park, I probably should be making rides that are all, e-tickets or whatever, but really I'm just trying to make a park that would actually be like a good park to go to in general, and this is obviously just going to be mostly for children or families with young children, and chances are if you're a coaster fanatic, chances are this is probably just going to be only worth riding for the coaster credit. The exit of this ride would lead to a gift shop located at the exit of the mine, which would be called Excavation Finds. This gift shop would sell Star Sapphire merchandise as well as some pink rock candy. The last attraction in the land would be a children's play area, which would be located in and around the crystal caverns of Zamaron. Now, I chose Zamaron to put the kids' play area in as opposed to all the other lands because the star Sapphires are the lanterns of love. Therefore, when you have loving families that come to the park with young children, it kind of makes sense that they would be the ones to host the kid-friendly play area and as well as kid-friendly ride in the mine train, right? This play area would be surrounding the Star Sapphire central power battery, and there would be slides that go through the crystals, bridges, rope climbs going through the rocky terrain of the crystal abundant planet. There would also be a few kid-friendly flat rides that would be surrounding this play area. One of those would be a drop tower that would go into the mines below, like my Dig Dug drop tower, wink wink nudge nudge, and they would essentially just be tourists to the mine, same deal as my Dig Dug one, except that one's obviously a lot better, so go check that out. The other one would be a classic scrambler ride where your vehicles are mining vessels, and the center of the ride is a crane that's spinning your carts around to mine the resources around you as fast as possible. Obviously, you're not actually mining anything, but it kind of adds some sort of theme and immersion to the ride that typically isn't there with scramblers. So that is it for Zamaron, and that is it for the first part of this theme park. We still have 5 more lands to discuss. Be sure to tune in for the next episodes where we will be covering all the other Lantern Corps' home planets. So stay tuned for those. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.